Happy Monday, everybody. Monday starts the week, and we are here to make your week a profitable one through the props betting market. Welcome to Prop It Up. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We're going to go over the Monday night football game tonight in depth from a props betting perspective. We're also going to take a little look ahead at the Thursday night game, and of course, props we hope to see next week. So, Andrew, hope you had a great weekend. It sounds like you did. You went 2-0-1. Congratulations on that. Winning weekends are the best type of weekends. So let's just get right into Monday night. First off, tell everyone what you have up. I know you got a big play going tonight. And then start us off with our passing props. So we're looking at passing yards, any TDs, attempts, completions, any of those that you like for tonight. But first off, tell us about that big play tonight.
Yeah, a big 5% play. Obviously, it's half off Monday, so 50% off for my play tonight. Monday Night Football on a pretty good run with the side plays in the NFL. Super low volume. And yesterday, you mentioned the 2-0-1, Andy. Well, that push just so happened to be Broncos -3. So I'll probably never be as grateful for a push as I am for the Denver Broncos -3 play. So, and I had Derrick Henry over on rushing yards and the Commanders. So a pretty good day, pretty low volume Sunday. Looking forward to cashing a ticket. A reminder for everybody at home, that play is only 50% off. That's $17.50 at the website. 5% play going tonight, Monday Night Football. You know, Andy, I find it interesting looking at the different schedules for teams and you know, how people can look at props and you find buy low spots, sell high spots in certain situations. I look at Daniel Jones' pass completions. He's still gone over in 2 of his 3 games. And I know he's had to throw, especially in 2 or 3 of them, because they're playing super, super tough teams. You know, Cowboys and Niners. And then you look at the game in between, the sandwich spot there that was supposed to be a layup against the Cardinals. They had to pull off a huge comeback in order to make that happen. But this is a guy, I think, in this game, and looking at really what the Seahawks have done, they've been allowing a ton of pass attempts. Teams are passing all over them. Lots of their games are high scoring. I'm a little bit surprised here we're seeing 20.5, especially with the fact the run game hasn't looked strong at all for the Giants. Daniel Jones himself hasn't really gotten involved in that. We'll talk about that in a few moments, but I think 20.5 is a little bit light. I think that this is a well-rested Giants team that's going to have lots of weapons ready to go, and they haven't really gone downfield too much. And you know how I feel about that. When you've got guys that aren't really making plays downfield, it means you have to pass the ball a lot more to get there, to get to the end zone, to get to the red zone. And seeing at 20.5, for him to get 22 against San Fran, 26 in a comeback effort against the Cardinals, and now here entering this matchup against the Seahawks, that's allowing everyone to pass all over them, despite what the result ends up being. The one that stuck out right away to me was the completion prop here for Daniel Jones over 20.5.
Could not agree more, actually. That was the number one prop I had down here. We didn't even talk about it. So I'm in agreement with you that Daniel Jones probably goes over his completions. I like that one. Game script, I think this game should be fairly close. I like Geno Smith to go over his passing total, 248.5. You know, he started off, they had that dismal game to start the season where he had 112 passing yards. But he's rebounded nicely, 32 of 41 against Detroit for 328 yards. And then they get the nice win against Carolina, where the game script, you know, they had to score a bunch of points late, but he only completed 23 passes. He had 296 yards passing in there. So I think this game could actually have quite a few points. It's a Seahawks team that's put up 37 points in their last 2 games. The Giants are going to have to keep up. And it looks like the Seahawks are going to be missing a couple of corners, some of these guys that play inside coverage. So Daniel Jones, that helps the Daniel Jones prop. But I also think that this could help the Geno Smith prop. If the Giants are able to put points up on the board, I expect Geno to be in passing mode. So I'll take a little sprinkle on Geno Smith over 48.5 passing yards coming into this game. Don't forget, Andrew has a 5% play up, half price Monday. All plays are half price. I just put up a UFC play. I got to tell you, we were off for UFC. There was no event on Saturday, Andrew, and I was so happy. I needed a week off.
Yeah, you went on a good run, though. You went on a good run.
11-3. I could not be happier with this 11-3 MMA run. But back at it. got a play that I love. Again, half price. All these plays for on Monday are half price, so you can grab that. It's up at WagerTalk.com. Make sure you grab Andrew's 5% NFL play and my UFC play. Make sure you grab the best line. Let's move to the rushing props. Andrew, what do you like in this game? Giants and Seahawks rushing props.
You know, Andy, when I looked at this, this was just, I kind of had just have one for each topic here. And I know it's kind of keeping it simple, but I don't want to bet against Kenneth Walker. I really don't. I want to keep betting on him until they elevate that number. I'm seeing 62.5 as the current number for his rushing yards, coming off a 97-yard performance against the Carolina Panthers. He's hit this in 5 of his last 6 games. This New York Giants team ranks 26 as far as rushing yards allowed per game. And maybe it's some recency bias. I understand they're coming off a game against the 49ers that just have multiple guys that can run the ball all over you, but their run defense does not seem good at all. And I think a big problem last year for the Seahawks was that they didn't mix in the run enough. They passed the ball too much. They became a little bit too predictable. So I think 62.5 is a pretty reasonable number here. It's a game that's expected to be relatively high scoring based on what the total is pegged at. But I still think we see a decent, amount of attempts. And looking here for Kenneth Walker over his last few games to start the year off, we got 18 attempts, 17 attempts, and 12 attempts, and turning all of those into big plays, averaging 5 yards per carry. So this is a guy making a difference and someone that I just don't want to bet against. I have to hop on the train that is Kenneth Walker Jr. I have not been looking at him quite a bit this season, Andy, and tonight I think I should start.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes fantasy football can really help. Like, I have Kenneth Walker on a team. That's the only reason why I follow him. Like, I have no ties to Seattle. I'm a Colts fan, so I don't really watch. But because I have him on a fantasy team, I watch him. He's been really good this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you. I don't want to bet against him. I'm going to look at his over 14.5 rush attempts. It's gone over the last couple games, 17 against Lions, 18 against Carolina. Him and Zach Charbonnet have been very good. And I don't see why that wouldn't continue. He's healthy. So, I do expect Geno Smith to do well, but they've got to have some balance in this offense. And Kenneth Walker is a guy getting all the carries. I will also take an under on Matt Breida. I don't understand this lineup. This is one of those where they may know something that I don't. I have no idea why Matt Breida's rushing total is 47.5. Believe it or not, the Seahawks tied for number 1 for best defense on yards per carry. Titans allowed 2.9, so does Seattle, 2.9 yards per carry. Matt Breida, so against San Francisco, 4 carries for 17 yards. Not exactly impressive. So I'm just not really sure Breida's that guy. I think they pass the ball a lot more. So I like Kenneth Walker over his rush attempts and Matt Breida under 47.5 rushing yards. All right, let's move to reception props. Andrew, I got to be honest, I got a lot of them. What do you have? You said you're going low volume. Some of these just jumped off the page. I know I'm not going to hit them all, but I think there's quite a few I like. What'd you find in the receiving props?
Hey, all the power too. It's just about finding these winners. And I'm with you on that one. For some reason, Andy, I thought that number was so weird. I just couldn't, I had to stay off it. And a lot of times when I do that, though, it backfires and the guy ends up just, being the exact thing I thought it would. So I'm with you on that under. I like Slayton over 38.5 receiving yards here, averaging 12.1 yards per catch. He's up there, tying this team for leading in targets, 6+ targets in the last 2 games. And he's going to benefit tonight from Seattle missing 2 corners. Like I said, if I like Daniel Jones' pass attempts over, I like his completions over, the total's pegged at 47.5. You think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I like the fact that Darius Slayton, whenever he does get the ball, it's a decent catch. It's not like a 4 or 5 yarder. Whenever he gets the ball, he's pretty much catching at least like a 10, 15 yarder. We only need a few catches to get this. And I feel like the biggest problem with this Giants team is their offense hasn't been spread out enough. And I think it will benefit him with some other guys starting to get going a little bit. Pretty good target share for him. And realistically, when I look at this team, I think they need somebody like him to get fed, to get the ball early, to open up for the guys downfield. So that's one I looked at. And Andy, I think I might look at some of the running backs for for the Giants to catch the ball rather than receive. You were just talking about taking unders there. I think that we're going to see a lot of dump offs. I'm not a Daniel Jones hater by any means, but I don't think that he can throw deep. I honestly don't. He's not really a big game player, I don't think. If they're going to be successful, which they're pretty desperate to win tonight, I think that they're going to need him to just pass the ball a ton and be safe. So I'll be looking at some running back props as far as those guys catching. But Slayton over 38.5 receiving is the one that stuck out to me. Just based on how many targets he's getting, I found that number was pretty low. So that's the only one I've locked in so far.
Well, let's be clear. Daniel Jones, he can throw it deep. It just, you don't know where the ball's going to land. Like, could hit a guy on the chain gang or an assistant coach. Most likely not in the hands of the intended receiver.
Are his eyes open when he does it, though? That's the question. Does he close his eyes before he throws it?
50-50. Most time he's trying to evade pressure based on like a blown assignment on the weak side blitz or something. So just wanted to clarify. He has the physical ability to throw it deep, maybe just not the accuracy to complete those. I will take a look at this is like the Kenneth Walker show, but over 1.5 receptions. I was surprised to see this at 1.5. He has 10 targets and 8 catches this season. So this is not a backfield where they're trotting out 3 or 4 guys. It's 2 men. It's Charbonnet and Walker. So I'll take I'll take him. He's on the field quite a bit. So give me Walker over 1.5 receptions. One guy that has not done as well as I think everyone thought is Jackson Smith-Njigba, under 27.5 receiving. This guy's had 13, 34, and 10 yards in 3 games. Last week, 3 targets and 1 catch. Yikes. So I don't know. DK Metcalf is having a really good year. Tyler Lockett is having a good year. And JSN, it just hasn't quite happened to him. Some of these other rookie wide receivers are performing better than him. Maybe it's just taking a while for him to adjust to the NFL and the offense. But right now, I can't take an over on him. And then maybe a little sprinkle on Darren Waller over 48.5. This was one of those lines that seemed a little bit high, and I wondered why, because he's only gone over 36 yards once this season. But he's been battling some injuries. He's hopefully the healthiest he's been. And the game that he did do well, that was against the Cardinals, who allow the 4th most yards to tight ends. Well, the Seahawks allow the 6th most yards to tight ends. And we mentioned that Seattle's missing a couple of guys in the secondary. So Darren Waller might be a really good target. Andrew, you mentioned that, Daniel Jones, maybe a little bit of dink and dunk or shorter passes. So maybe Darren Waller gets involved in that as well. So JSN under, Kenneth Walker over just his receptions, and Darren Waller over his receiving. And Andrew, you got any anytime touchdown scores that you like in this game? I'll start off. I like DK Metcalf plus 135. He had 1 touchdown in week 1, and then he had none the next 2 weeks. He had 12 catches for 187 yards. I feel like when you're putting up those kind of numbers, a touchdown is right around the corner. Kind of surprising he hasn't gotten the end zone the last 2 weeks. So I like DK Metcalf at plus 135. Were there any touchdown scores that grabbed your attention?
Well, I mean, you just talked about Darren Waller. He's listed at plus 195 right now. He's off a really quiet week. I think he's the guy on this team. I talk about Darius Slayton, but he's the guy on this team. I think that if they're going to have success here, and they should, they've had lots of time to prepare for this game. This is a spot where I think that Darren Waller should get in. And you mentioned the matchup there for somebody of his position. I feel like plus 195 is a pretty reasonable price. I do want to look at Daniel Jones at plus 120. He didn't have the greatest rushing week last week, but it's hard to rush against a team like the Niners. I learned that by betting on his rushing prop, but I feel like this is a Seahawks team that potentially could be a little distracted by the Giants receivers in the end zone and kind of forget that Daniel Jones can run the ball. And kind of just looking down the list a little bit, what about Hyatt? I always pronounce his name. Is that how you say it? Yeah, Hyatt. I think that the odds there on that one is plus 475, Andy. I feel like I'm going to take this until it hits with him again, because he's someone that just has that big value. And, when your top guys are covered, someone like that can be open. And that plus 475, I guess that's kind of my, so to speak, off the board play.
Well, it's one of those guys where if you're getting plus 400, if you play a little bit every week, if he hits it, hits it every once in a while, yeah, that's going to be a really good. There was an article that talked about how the number one touchdown scorer last year for units was the Patriots defense because they were always 1 or 8-1 and they hit it like 6 times. So they ended up plus 39 units. So some of these guys that are like the 4-1 and 5-1, if you just stick to your game plan and play them every single week, as opposed to just trying to, play the matchups and everything, doing the anytime touchdown score. We talked about on our road to millions playing John Dotson, but have a touchdown every week. Well, the first 3 weeks was terrible. He was barely involved. Then what happens? Yesterday, catches a touchdown. It's a final play of regulation to send it in overtime. Got it at like plus 320. So just by sticking to it, you end up kind of making these units. So I like that Hyatt one. I think you stick to that one every week, especially if you're getting 4-1 on that one. Guy's super talented. So, all right, let's move
really
into
interesting, Andy, looking at those prices, because you and I have talked about it. I've mentioned it on the show before, but I like to try and throw in one of those. I know some people that are the complete opposite of me, where they refuse to bet anything lower than like plus 200. But because, I mean, what's our luck been so far this year on the Monday Nighters? Like, didn't we have 2 weeks ago, there were 2 nights and there might have been like 2 touchdowns combined. So at least guy, if he hit one, he's getting the plus 400, right? But I think more than likely, there's a reason why certain guys like Christian McCaffrey are laying minus $2. So I like to throw in like one guy like that, but I don't get too greedy with them.
Yeah, I said that the Christian McCaffrey touchdown streak is probably unsustainable and that he probably wasn't going to score a touchdown. And I was right this week. He did not score a touchdown. He scored 4 of them. So you're welcome, everybody. But yeah, it is hard to pick just when it's Monday Night Football. You only have one game to pick from. So if you get one low scoring game, then it's impossible to try and pick them. But at least on Sunday, you've got a bunch of games that you can, narrow it down to and say, oh, I think that game's going to be high scoring. Let me take the Bears and the Broncos and try and figure it out from there. So let's move on to props we hope to see for next week. So this is where we look at some of the trends, probably some of the injuries. Andrew, I guess this kind of comes down to what did you notice over the weekend and how does it affect next week? Do you have any players and props that you're excited to see and you hope that the books give us some really good numbers on?
Yeah, I mean, Andy, look, when it comes down to this, you're just banking on getting a few good numbers. And I think that I don't like to buy into beef, we'll call it. I don't like to buy into what you see in the media too much. I'm going to be looking towards Jamar Chase props next week because they're playing the Cardinals. And I know he came out and pretty much just hung his quarterback out to dry. I can't believe these guys are swearing to the media, but he goes, I'm always bleeping open. That's what he said to the media. And, well, I always like to look at the fact of the matter is you play a team, you lose outright like last week or like yesterday, and then you get the Cardinals. It's nice when you're off at a disappointing loss and then you look to your schedule and you're like, oh, yeah, that's nice. I get to kind of bounce back against that team. Like, look at the Jets. Like, that game that they played last night, I'm not sure if you'd agree, but I feel like, they probably would have had a better fortune against many other teams in the league. But unfortunately, they had to bounce back against a team like the Chiefs. So I'll be looking at Jamar Chase props to the over there. As far as I was just going to mention one that was Thursday night, but I got to save that one, Andy. As far as the Patriots are concerned, I'm going to just keep looking at Ramondre Stevenson. I think that can we look at Bailey Zappi props at this point? Can I look ahead and try and guess a number at that one? I'm not sure, but as much as Bill Belichick protects Mac Jones and Jones, people say, where are his weapons? Who does he have? I think they have to just stick to the run game. And Ramondre Stevenson is the one guy that I've had success. I haven't really been the best when it comes to rushing plus receiving props, combining those two together. I think we're going to get a really good opportunity to make some money with him next week. And then other than that, just some anytime touchdown scores like Justin Jefferson, hoping to get a good price on him. But Andy, I really just looked the Jamar Chase one. When I saw your message that you sent kind of the rundown, that was the one I sent. I want to get a good number on him against the Cardinals. That'll be a bet that I make early in the week.
Love it. Always effing open. Always. What a classic wide
He's always
receiver.
open.
I've never met a wide receiver that was like, I was covered on that play. It's like triple coverage. I was open. You got to thread the needle there. So, guys, if you're enjoying the gambling content, please hit the like button. Let us know we're doing a good job for you. And leave us a comment. Tell us your favorite play on Monday Night Football. We went over ours. Love to hear yours. Love to hear if you got any gems or nuggets or any really cool sleeper stats that we didn't go over. Leave those in the comments section. And I hope everyone had a really good weekend. A couple plays I'm looking for. I hope we keep getting Bijan Robinson at 3.5 receptions. 5 receptions against Jacksonville, 4 or more in every game. And I think the jury's out on Desmond Ridder. He's not good. So teams are just stacking the box. They're forcing them to throw. And it's working. And Bijan Robinson, amazing athlete, but I like him more in the passing game. I think the game script for Atlanta is going to be that they're just going to be down in these games. I don't think their defense is good enough to keep them in these games. And Bijan's you're certainly not looking at overs at Kyle Pitts. Isn't it amazing that Kyle Pitts now is like the number 2 tight end on his own team? So I think Bijan's the guy that you play for overs in that one. Russell Wilson over 36.5 longest completion. I mean, the guy just keeps hitting long balls after long balls. 48, 46, and 60-yard passes in his last 3 weeks. So the books normally settle around that 36.5 longest completion. And Andrew, I've been good at team totals this year. I hope we keep getting numbers around that 20.5. I would even take 19.5 on the Panthers. Any game that Bryce Young starts, I'm taking the under on the Panthers. And the reason that it's really enticing is they're on the road against Detroit, and Detroit is rested. And Miles Sanders is clearly banged up. That groin injury from the preseason has clearly not helped him. And the Lions have an incredible rush defense. And that means Bryce Young is going to have to throw, and that's not good. So the Panthers have scored 17 or less in all 3 games that Bryce Young has started. So I'm looking to take an under on the Panthers. And then producer Dan knows this is going to be one of my favorites. I called my shot on Khalil Herbert early last week, and I'm doing it again with Josh Dobbs. I really want to get a number that I can bet over his rushing. The number this week on Josh Dobbs rushing was 16.5. This guy's had 41, 55, and 48 the last 3 weeks. I don't know how big of an adjustment the books are going to make on this. You don't see the books take a huge swing, like going from 16.5 to like 30.5. My guess is this moves up, but maybe it hovers in the low to mid 20s. I would love to get a Josh Dobbs at 22.5, 23.5, 24.5 and take that thing. This guy's a rushing quarterback. He had double-digit rush attempts yesterday. I like him as an athlete, and that first week he didn't rush the ball at all. And now I think that he's going to be a really good rushing quarterback, and he's playing the Bengals, who seem to be in complete disarray, Andrew, like you alluded to. So Josh Dobbs, I'm really excited to look forward to. So, all right, guys, don't forget to get Andrew's 5% NFL play. That is up for Monday Night Football at WagerTalk.com. Everything is half price on Monday. I've got my UFC best bet that is up 11-3 run in UFC. That card goes off on Saturday. Andrew, let's talk about Thursday and the Bears and the Commanders. Woohoo! Wow.
What a game, man.
Yeah, this is like the Bears and the Broncos. Like someone's got to win. So this is the someone's got to win game of the week. So, all right, what do you like about Thursday Night Football? I mean, I know we don't really like the game, but props-wise, is there anything that you're hoping to see that we think we can take advantage of?
So, Andy, you talked about sometimes fantasy football helping you with props. Somehow in one of my leagues, this is the league I'm not doing as well in for obvious reasons, I ended up drafting both running backs for the Washington Commanders, Robinson and Gibson. And I'll tell you what, with how well Robinson has looked and the team continues to look to him, no matter where they are in the field, but especially in the goal line, I'm going to look towards unders for Antonio Gibson. I mean, you take a look at his attempts. We've seen 3, 2, 2, and 6. but it's equating to nothing. 19, 17, 9, and 9. Receiving yards, we got 1 reception, 3, 3, and 1. He's not doing anything. And whenever he does get rushing attempts and does get those opportunities, he's not making much out of them. And even in this matchup in particular, I feel like the number is going to be too high. I used to be someone that liked to look towards secondary options. You know, I feel like going into the season, I thought that these two guys could be a good duo together. But at this point, I have to look towards the unders on Antonio Gibson until I see a big game from him, especially what I saw this past weekend. So I look towards unders, and even though with that matchup he has, I still think that number is going to be a little bit too high. I haven't seen it come out yet. And look, Andy, if you saw the look on Justin Fields' face on the sideline, just in absolute disbelief what happened. You look at this guy, I feel like he's going to have to continue to do more of it himself. I think you and I spoke either like backstage one time or it might have been on a Prop It Up show about how Justin Fields' rushing prop, when he first came into the league, how quickly the books had to adjust to what that number was because he was running all over the field. I feel like we're going to have to start seeing more of that. We saw signs of it this past weekend. He had 25 rushing yards for 4 attempts. I feel like against this Commanders team, we're going to have to see him run even more. Commanders ranked, I think, in the bottom third of the league in rushing yards allowed. It's funny, I'm talking about the quarterback here, but I feel like if they're going to have success, they need him to establish his run so that way he can keep them kind of guessing and have more time in the pocket. So 2 things that I'm looking at there, and I'm curious your thoughts about the Gibson unders.
That was the number one thing I had was take his under. I mean, look at I would take the rushing and receiving. Hopefully they give us a line on that one because I think he stinks in both categories. He had 26 yards. That was a game where the game script, he should have been really involved. He has 21 touches through 4 games. That's just not going to get it done. So, yeah, I'm in on this one. And I like the Brian Robinson over his rushing yards. Hope we get a good number. You know, he only rushed for 3.2 yards a carry versus the Eagles, but that's the Eagles. That's a really good rush defense, and they gave him 14 carries, and he had one nice run that got a touchdown. So, you know, the yards per carry isn't great against the Eagles, but you're going up against the Bears who give up, a ton of yards. So I'm absolutely all in on the Antonio Gibson under. I was excited before the season started for his prospects, and it just has not come to fruition. It's been bad. Bears offense, listen, Justin Fields passing, he had 335 on Sunday. Previous high was 216. I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's not going to have over 300 yards again. And then the other thing, Khalil Herbert is by far the unquestioned number 1 back in Chicago when the game is close. Jacob Gibbs on Twitter. If you don't follow Jacob Gibbs and you're a big fan of player props, he's a must follow on Twitter. Jacob Gibbs. He did a really good tweet about when the game is 7 points or less, how Khalil Herbert gets like 80% of the running back snaps. And Roshan Johnson is just there to spell him a little bit, or when the game is a blowout. And I don't think this game is a blowout. I think Washington, that was an unbelievable performance, but overtime and now a short week, and that's a tough game to lose. The Bears, obviously, they're not in a good mood, but I think this game is close. It could be a little bit sloppy. And I think Khalil Herbert probably gets over his rushing total just because he's going to be getting, majority of the carries. So I look at unders on Justin Fields passing, over on Khalil Herbert rushing, definitely under on Antonio Gibson. And I might be talked into a Sam Howell over passing. Bears secondary is not very good. And we finally had a couple sightings from the wide receivers there. Terry McLaurin had a good game. John Dodson had a touchdown. So maybe that was enough to give the spark to Washington's passing offense. So I'll take a look at Sam Howell over if the number is really, really right. But yeah, those are the ones that I have.
Do you know what that number would have been yesterday, Andy?
What, Sam Howell's passing?
Yes.
I did not know what it was going into the game. That was not a prop that I was really interested in. Let me look up here real quick and see. I mean, Jalen Hurts had the big game, 319 yards, and Howell, 290, 29 to 41 for 290, 1 touchdown. He surely went over. I got to imagine that prop was probably in the 230s or 240s. But Just that Washington rush, he averaged 7.1 yards per attempt, and Washington rushing only got 3.8 yards per attempt. So you saw the success in the passing game, not necessarily the rushing game. And if you're Washington, that's something to build on, especially when you're going up against the Bears. Of course, against the Bears, you might be able to have success everywhere.
Hey, 9 guys caught the ball for Sam Howell. That's one thing I like to look at, especially for a young guy like that, when you've got a multiple options, right? But it also makes things interesting for you, because if a team has a good matchup, you still might want to take the under, because you've got all kinds of guys getting the ball, not just maybe 1 or 2 guys leading the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us on the Monday edition of Prop It Up. Please hit that like button. Tell us your favorite prop in the comment section below for tonight, and make sure you are getting Andrew's 5% NFL play. That is tonight. It's half price Monday. I've got my UFC best bet of the week. That's up there as well. And if you're enjoying the gambling content, please check out all of our other videos on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. By tonight, guys, we're going to have a lot of NFL individual game breakdowns for next week. Those are only a few minutes long. And in a couple days, we're going to have a ton of college football breakdown videos. Again, just a few minutes long. So if you got your eye on a game, you might be able to find some little nuggets and some little stats that might sway you one way or the other. So they're very, very helpful. We work really hard on them. So make sure you hit the like button and go check out some of those other videos so it can help you out on some of your bets. Thanks for joining us. Good luck, everyone, on your bets tonight on Monday Night Football. And we will be back Friday for another episode of Prop It Up.